All right, we're looking at a match, Eoghan O'Flanagan and Sanjay Ribeiro. I'm going to look at Eoghan O'Flanagan's, I'm going to say half butterfly guard to leg entanglements and to the Choi bar. I think he does something really different, and I actually spent the week before ADCC training with Eoghan, and so I got to experience or feel his half butterfly game firsthand. I think he does some really interesting things. So he kind of wants his opponent to come in and crossface and underhook him, which is normally a terrible idea, but he's got some really good tricks to actually turn that into submission attempts against his opponent. And almost the ultimate test would be against someone like Sanjay Ribeiro, who really is almost couldn't name someone who's better at pressure passing from crossface underhook. And for Eoghan to be able to get his game to work against Sanjay is a real testament to how good he was at ADCC. So let's have a look at some of the things he was doing. All right, so we'll look at this first sequence, and I'm just going to play it in normal speed and talk for a moment, and then I'll break it down a little further. All right, so he's on 2-on-1. He's sort of hand fighting a little bit, and then Sanjay comes in. You see Sanjay's reaching his head near the crossface, right? And gone into a crossface, and you'll see Eoghan is going to attack what we call the Choi bar against this crossface. So he's pummeling hand under the chin, he's connected his hands. Sanjay pulls away. He goes at it again. So Sanjay's again at that crossface. A little more hand fighting. Reaches under. So see, he's feeding that arm underneath like you want a crossface. And now he's connected to that arm, straightens the arm, and swings over the top for a really nice arm bar, which Sanjay eventually gets himself out of, not without being in a lot of danger though. So Sanjay's already actually he'd been in on a crossface, and Eoghan started to attack the arm, and Sanjay kind of pulled back a little bit and changed to his arm being a bit lower, pushing on the leg. And you'll see Eoghan actually, when you like to do this Choi bar is just it's an arm bar setup. It's just an arm bar. It's just a name for named after a guy, Choi Won Choi, who was popularized doing this, but where you swing over the top to get the arm bar, as opposed to most normal traditional arm bar setups. We tend to climb up we start at the hips, we climb up to get the arm. Choi bar, we go over the top. Okay, that's just the major difference there. So you see, Eoghan's just got his leg back. It's he's not actually playing half butterfly yet, which I'll talk about a little bit more, how often we want to play the half butterfly position itself. But having this frame here, Sanjay feels like it's stopping Eoghan stepping over the head here like this. He's pushing this leg, and Eoghan actually feeds his hand underneath, which basically means if you want to crossface me, you can. Okay, but this will still set up the Choi bar. Okay, and usually when you're doing the Choi bar, you're going to want some frame on the head, right? And the way Eoghan frames, we'll see through this as well, is he's often, I personally usually frame their head away, but Eoghan actually tends to do this, and you'll see that it's actually going to set up some leg lock entries as well if they take another bait that we'll see in a moment. But so we're going to lift our elbow up and frame up here, and Eoghan eventually connects his hands together. Okay, once he's got this, it's really hard to pull the arm free. Okay, so there's two ways. If I'm down here, just posture up, he pulls the arm free. If I've got his shoulder, he tries to pull his arm free, he can't. And he can also potentially circle can you circle your hand back in? Yeah. And now he's out of the arm lock. But because he's been pushing here, Eoghan can kind of bring that shoulder in close. So if you try to circle your hand out, you can't. Okay, so the arm's actually trapped. And this frame here stops Jacob closing the gap. So Jacob wants to come in here. Now this is actually bad or worse for me, or is it? We'll see with Eoghan in a moment. But having this frame here stops that. Okay, and then he gets his shin in front, and this makes space. You swing your shin in, push their head away, and you can see now I have access to chop over the top, and I have a belly down armbar position. Okay, Sanjay rolls out, and they have a little kind of armbar versus armbar escape battle. I don't want to go through that so much. We're just looking at Eoghan's half butterfly and his entries here. Okay, so again, really nice sequence to start off with. Eoghan attacked here. Sanjay reacted, starts pushing on the knee. Okay, he comes back under, He's almost saying, give me the crossface. He doesn't take the crossface in this case, but he's really baiting that, okay? And then from here, connects his hands, gets this shin in front of the head, makes space, and now he's on the arm, ready to chop through for the armbar. All right, so looking at that, you'll see Eoghan, we're just at that point now, so Eoghan scoops under the arm, captures the shoulder, so it's hard to like posture out and pull the shoulder away. He sees his own shoulders forward, so it'd be hard for Sanjay to circle that hand over the top. Works to connect his hands, and see probably the difference between how I would normally do this and how Eoghan's doing it, which we'll see plays into his game well, is the elbow being on the far side of the chin. Okay, I tend to push their head down towards my hips here. He's more like lifting up with this and tilting, I guess, his head a little more towards the camera. Now he's changed it, but he's got room to get that shin in front, push away and attack the armbar. And as I said, Sanjay manages to get out. All right, so we'll move on to the next attempt that Eoghan has. All right, so looking at the next one, and this one actually Sanjay gets probably the deepest he got towards a pass. But you'll see actually, you actually see a half butterfly now. So you see Eoghan's hook in like this, but Sanjay's taken an underhook here. And we'll just go back to that. And you'll see something that Eoghan does, or like tries to do, which we'll have a look a little bit more at later. But see this high elbow frame like this. Okay, so it's like he's trying to frame Sanjay's weight head out towards the front side. Okay, so basically, you don't want someone to take your hip. We'll talk about that in a moment. We'll break that down a bit more. But he's framing his head out to the side. He's got a butterfly hook now, but his knee's still kind of working as a frame to keep Sanjay's weight out on this side. And he's actually lost that frame that I was talking about, but he's trying to work his arm back in to frame. And he's blocked the cross face here. Okay, pummeled his head underneath this cross face. So Sanjay's looking a little bit too high. Sanjay sprawls out to pass. Eoghan recovers. And he comes back into that frame I talked about. And this time, he's in on a leg. Right, goes for the far leg. That's that frame again. Scoots his hips underneath. And goes for a leg entanglement attempt, but kind of scrambles out. All right, so now we're in a situation where Sanjay's gone for the underhook, and the first time he actually gets in very deep. Eoghan has this half butterfly hook with the knee still like, kind of like working as a frame, pushing the hips away this way. Just keeping, you don't want someone like sprawled too close on you here in half butterfly. So he's using his, almost like a little knee shield mixed with the half butterfly just to keep the hips out to the side. And he's working at two things here. So he kind of wants Sanjay to go high, right? And actually wants him too high to the point where he can use this crossface here, which stops Jacob going crossbody. Okay, so again, if Jacob gets crossface, and you can put your head like down over here, yeah, like this sucks, okay? And it's much harder to elevate or even attack the arm here and even get to the legs. The more crossbody someone goes, it's generally worse. So this frame, not just like under the chin like that, but like out here, keeps, like kind of tilts Jacob in this case, more out to this side of me. And it also gives me room, let's say you're trying to crossface and this crossface is heavy, you'll see Eoghan's like pushing the armpit and he swings his head underneath, okay? And so look at that, right? Right now, if I wanted to get to a leg entanglement now and I was just trying to frame away, like sprawl out, crossface, it's hard to get to the legs. But if I push his head this way, frame under the armpit, I'm now getting access to the legs. He's come forward too high on the crossface. And that's where Eoghan was working from. And this is something that, now you'll see he actually gets the leg entanglement the second time around in that. One thing I noticed rolling with Eoghan, and this is really interesting, he would use this frame here, not just to push away, but to elevate forward. Can you keep heavy pressure? So Sanjay, in this case, I imagine, if it was like me, felt like, I've squashed this underhook. Can you get a bit higher with your grip? Yeah. you've got their arm above the head, it generally feels quite good. You've killed me with this underhook. But I can actually also, if I push up this way, bring you forward, right? So it's like you got heavy here, and I do this, your weight starts coming forward, and because I'm under your chin, you try to back out, and it's kind of difficult. And the only way to back out is to go up, right? And you'll see Eoghan like follows up, pushing up, which again, gives more access to come underneath the leg. So again, like blocking under this, or potentially you see sometimes he goes here, sometimes he's here, keeping this elbow open, entices them to take this underhook, go too far forward, tuck the head, and then you can go near leg or saddle. I go this leg if he stays here, and I get attached to this leg. A lot of the time they switch their base to start, so don't let me get that, drop your hip, and that gives a saddle entry on the other leg. All right, so looking here, you'll see here's that cross face. And you see he's like trying to bring Sanjay forward with it. See that? Like that angle he's got is actually, like if Sanjay tries to drop his weight back, it's actually quite difficult. And this is the thing that I felt when it was very different going against Eoghan. It's also that elbow being very high makes it very hard for Sanjay to go cross body. But he's sticking to this underhook because it feels like you've got a good control. And in some ways you do, but Eoghan's very crafty in this position. And I think you can see his other hand is kind of tucked in front of that armpit, freeing himself from see his head starting to free from the crossface. And now Sanjay's come up, Eoghan's gone on the far leg, and he's managed to scramble out, but Eoghan had a good chance at a wrestle up there. Okay. And if we just look a little bit earlier, here's that kind of initial sequence where Sanjay actually did a good job sprawling out. Eoghan goes back into that frame, frames up, so he's framing high, pushes, and that's how he gets to the leg. Okay, so just once more on that. So he has to recover for a moment. He gets that high frame. Sanjay comes back in. He'll bring him forward with this frame, and then as Sanjay postures up, he pushes away. So he brings him forward with that. Sanjay realizes that he's gone too high. He tries to escape, so he's now gone both hands on the mat to posture up, and Eoghan will push the neck up to get access to the legs. And now he's gripped onto the leg, where he can then start his leg sequence. Okay, so he's got the armbar sequence if you get access to the choi bar. If they really pressure in and close in, you can start bringing them forward with that crossface and try and get access to the legs. And we'll just look at that once more. Brings him forward. So he's still got the leg here. Takes him forward with that frame. Goes to the leg, wrestles up. All right, so now you'll see a successful leg entry, and again, I'll talk through it, just like as it's playing live, and then we can go into a bit more detail. So he's gone again for this choi bar, so he's gone for the arm. Sanjay's going to take a bait to go for that high underhook. Okay, now I've got that crossface, that high crossface, brings him forward, and you see he's now reached to this near leg, goes for the far leg, back to the near leg, into a nice saddle entry, and an attack on the legs for the saddle. Right. Sanjay does a good job defending and eventually escapes the leg lock attempt. All right, so this time, now I think it's important to note, and this one, I just want to talk about half butterfly. If you watch Eoghan, he doesn't just put the hook here. Okay, I think this is a bad idea generally, because if I put the half butterfly, we think about half butterfly and we think, oh, I want to play half butterfly, do this. It's like, no, actually don't put your hook unless you've got decent control, or if you need to just elevate them because they're they've closed the gap too much. But if I put the hook here, Jacob can just take my hip, right? And now I'm really worried about body lock, and I haven't really closed that space off. And you'll see, most of the time, Eoghan's actually back here. It's more almost like a knee shield that's maybe not even active. He'll step on the hip a lot, which makes Jacob have to try to remove that. And you see Sanjay is then playing a grip like this, right? So Sanjay wants to take this hip, okay? But if my knee is very high, you can't really take my hip, can you? Right, so he can't get this. When he gets the hip, the cross-body control that I was talking about starts to become more available. But because Eoghan's playing a lot more like this, right, he feels safe going here, attacking this arm, but he keeps, again, I normally go here, but Eoghan's doing more like this, and it baits the underhook. this seems like a good option, and maybe on 99.9% of people for Sanjay, that is a good option, I would say. You know, like when I rolled on, I felt like I was like, thank you, but then it turned against me as well. So we want to go like here, right? Elbow high and start scooping this arm up for the choy bar, okay? And I want, you know, if Jacob's stalling and he's just backing away, it is hard to play this. But if he starts backing away, I can start looking for the legs. But if he actually wants to pass and he's pressuring in, right, then he's going to start looking for that. Yeah, and start pressuring down. Okay. Now, putting that butterfly hook starts to become a good idea. So from having my knee high here, pressure in like you're trying to cross-face him. So Sanjay's trying to like pressure. But now he takes this high underhook. Now getting my half butterfly is a good idea because I can start to use that to like get inside position on the legs and attack. Right. So once we're in this spot again, he goes high on that underhook with this frame underneath the chin. Stay low. Pressure. Yeah. Now stay low. Like, yeah. Like I can bring him forward with that crossface. Start reaching to this leg and start trying to take my right leg out into a saddle entry. So a little bit of this relies on, you know, I was telling Jacob to pressure because he was kind of like taking pressure off it. Like they feel like he's got an underhook and he wants to like utilize that to finish a pass. You need to stick to them. Yeah, so stay low with your head. Right. So by keeping his head low, I can actually off balance him well with this frame as a crossface. Okay, so once more, go back. You've got the frame in front of the hip. This is high. I started taking this arm with my elbow up. They think it's a good idea to go here. I put my half butterfly in. I bring him forward and I reach to this leg. And just look, beware of your knee anytime you do these saddle entries. There's a particular way you have to turn. I made a video about Gordon Ryan injuring his knee doing a saddle entry like this, or somewhat similar. So just be careful of that. All right, so you'll see Sanjay's got the frame. I'll just go a fraction earlier again, sorry. So see that hip frame? Okay. Owen often reaches to the far shoulder to try to square his opponent up a little bit as well. But you can see he doesn't have a half butterfly hook now. This foot's it's actually just open with the knee nice and high, making it hard to take that hip control. Right. So that's why Sanjay is basically baiting, like, come in and crossface me. Because you're not going to take my hip here, so take the crossface, which is open. So Sanjay does that. See, he's reaching for the leg. Sanjay says, all right, I'll crossface, that'll block the leg attack. And then watch that left arm is going to become that frame under the head with the choy bar grip. So he's gone for the arm, but also here, right? So if he could, he would do what he did earlier for that arm bar as well. So if he could get this knee in front, he'd look for the arm bar. So that's also another bait. Because the arm bar threat's there, Sanjay has to move a bit higher and take that high underhook. As we're about to see now. Okay, so he climbs up higher and squashes this top arm. But you see the pressure, so you can see the pressure he's starting to put on that arm, but it also becomes a good frame to bring Sanjay's weight forward. And you see that arm now has reached through, gripped that leg I talked about, and we're keeping Sanjay forward. So looking here, that frame with the grip on the leg, keeping Sanjay from backing out. And there's a little scramble, and Owen does a very good job at mixing between this near leg and the far leg. So single X and saddle has to be like a good mix. So because this knee's actually come high, he changes to the single X. And then Sanjay tries to sprawl off the single X. He follows. And then see how his hips dropped? This is where the saddle entry starts to become viable again. He shoots behind into the saddle and rolls through. So you need to, that's almost a bit separate to what we're talking about. All right, so the whole match had some really good examples of Owen's half butterfly, and I won't be able to go through all of it, but we'll just finish off with just one that happened with 1 minute to go. So Owen was up on points. You can see that and it just exemplifies similar things we were talking about. That half butterfly is not engaged yet. It's actually just a high knee shield, making it hard to control the far hip with a half guard locked in. And you'll see he sort of sets up something similar again. attacks that far arm, tries to work in towards, so reaches underneath. Sanjay goes high again, connects his hands for that crossface underhook. You can see he's kind of hiding his head, so it's never becomes like a really tight crossface. It's always you feel like you're a little high, right? And that elbow pointing up on the side. Sanjay goes, and often the person tries to flick off, and as they go to do that, so you can see Sanjay's come a little too far forward. Owen's again reaching for that leg to try and get it settled. Now Sanjay stepped over the top, which was a different defense. He's obviously becoming a bit more savvy to what's going on, and Owen inverts through and goes for a leg entanglement back take off that and uses that to come on top. So I recommend checking out all of Owen's matches from ADCC. He did awesome. It was a really good showing by Owen. I'd heard rumors from people that train with him about how good he was rolling, and it was cool to train with him in the lead up to ADCC that last week, and then also see him get results that kind of matched what people were saying. So you can check out, Owen does have a leg lock instructional, which I'm sure covers some of his game here and what he's thinking, probably in a better way than I can, through BJJ Fanatics. I believe it's called Leg Locks UK Variants. And if you want more content from me, you can check out my website, my online training platform, which is submeta.io/@Lachlan Giles.